I'm Chuck Olenek. I'm a reenactor. And that means I try to bring history to life using living history. And for 36 years in the classroom, what I did is I would stand before my students and dress the part for whatever time period or culture we were studying, which meant I got a lot of strange looks from students and colleagues, and I would try to use this as the bait to hook my students into realizing just how cool history is. So to that end, maybe 100 times out of a 180-day school year, I would stand before my students in the garb, not costumes, and I would bring in artifacts, stuff students could handle. Fancy teacher talk would label these as realia or manipulatives. Basically, this was, as a colleague put it, a portable, kid-friendly museum that was brought in every day. And I would play the music in the background for whatever time period and culture we were studying. So in effect, I had a soundtrack to history. And I did that for 36 years. Well, I'm not in the classroom anymore, and I have an entire room at the house filled with garb. Gotta put that to use. I still have a passion for bringing the past to life, which is why I'm involved in historical reenactment organizations. And I have a desire to preserve landmarks because I've seen landmarks go away, and that's been particularly telling over the past year and a half that I've been involved in this very pretentious sounding mission Odyssey. And what I'm doing with this mission Odyssey, I'm repurposing myself to document the history of Alta California. And to that end, I'm visiting each of the sites that I can find associated with the mission era. So that would involve the missions, the Asistencias, those were to be the spin-off missions, the Estancias, those were the ranchos designed to raise food to support the missions, and the Presidios, those were the fortifications to protect Spanish and later Mexican interests, and anything else that happens to fit into this framework, because I've seen sites disappear. I've seen landmarks disappear where you might find references to them in books or online, and you follow directions to, when you get an address and you show up and there's nothing. Not a plaque, not even a remnant of a plaque, nothing. History goes away, and people also tend to rewrite history and decide that certain parts don't become important. I personally believe you need to study the past, and erasing the inconvenient parts doesn't work. It doesn't make you any better off. History's not supposed to make you comfortable, it's supposed to make you think. Well, to this end, I'm now on my way for the third time to Mission Santa Clara, because I have a tendency to talk a lot, and I had too much material to put into 2 videos. It looks like it's going to be a third video that's going to be created to cover Mission Santa Clara's story. So I hope you stick with me on my journey. In 1834, secularization began, and what secularization was about was an ultimate plan regarding the missions, where the missions were supposed to make the native Californians into converts and indoctrinate them into the Spanish way of life and teach them skills to make them productive in Spanish society. But there was always an idea in the background that the missions were holding the lands in trust for the neophytes, and that within a 10-year period, the neophytes would be ready to take custody of their own ranchos, and it didn't work out that way at all. And Mission Santa Clara was secularized in 1836. In 1845, Governor Pio Pico granted the 1/2 square league Rancho Ulistac to Marcelo and his companion Cristobal, both alone from Mission Santa Clara. However, they had to follow certain rules as part of the land grant, such as using the land for cattle grazing or farming, and they had to build a house on the rancho. Rancho Ulistac was not the only land grant given to Ohlone people. There were a handful of others. Each one, including Ulistac, switched owners by the 1850s. In the 1830s and 1840s, squatters often moved into the mission buildings, and the neophytes or former neophytes either drifted away or were driven out. Vaqueros, once freed from the mission, sought employment elsewhere and found refuge working on Mexican ranchos. Depending on the size of the ranchos, a maximum of a few hundred vaqueros could be employed. These ranchos exported meat, tallow, and hide to New England, where such products were in high demand. And secularization kind of gives you another insight into what Mexico was doing. Mexico was trying to get people to move into Alta California because people didn't want to go. And they were trying to give incentives to please move to Alta California, occupy these lands. And the Mexican government started to award land grants to Mexican citizens and foreign nationals alike, just to get them to move there. And I think between the years 1833 and 1845, as many as 38 land grants were issued in what is now Santa Clara County. What are these new grantees doing with the lands they've acquired from the missions? The same things the missions did. They are raising cattle. They want to cash in on the hide trade. The land near the mission had drastically changed during the mission's existence. Native plants had been pushed out in favor of the ones introduced by the Spanish, and a lot of the animals that the livestock that the Spanish had brought, they ate a lot of the native plants. So, Spanish plants move in. So people that were used to hunting and gathering, because there's always the line, well, why didn't they just go back to the old ways? They can't go back to the old ways because the food sources are gone. The plants are gone, and the animals that would eat those plants, a lot of them are gone. So many of the neophytes drifted away. Some tried to go towards the San Joaquin Valley. Some tried in vain to set up Indian villages, which were not really self-sustaining, and a lot of those folks ended up raiding local cattle ranches to survive. With the onset of the Mexican War on July 11th, 1846, Captain Thomas Fallon took control of San Jose in the name of the Bear Flag Revolt. And pretty much California is going to be folding up through the rest of 1846. With a few California victories, but still, ultimately the U.S. has control. And on January 2nd, 1847, there was an altercation between Californios and American forces. By January 7th of 1847, there was a treaty signed between the Americans and the Californios stating that American forces would respect the rights of the Californios and not seize their property any longer. In 1849, a constitutional convention was held for California here at Colton Hall in Monterey. And Monterey had been the religious capital of California, or Alta California. It had been the military capital for Alta California. And when the U.S. acquired California as a result of the Mexican War, it served as the military capital for U.S. forces. But now there's going to be the convention that takes place and details being worked out, such as making California officially bilingual and where dueling fit, which, by the way, was legal for a while, then they made it go away. But it was decided bouncing between different cities which were really pushing to have the prestige of the capital there. It was moved to Mission Santa Clara's next door neighbor, the pueblo of San Jose. So that'll be the capital of California for 2 years, and then it'll bounce up to Vallejo, then it'll go over to Benicia for a very short time, then it'll go to Sacramento. And with each of these legislatures, in each of these capitals, there was discussion about dividing this new state. That discussion ended with the Civil War. Let's turn back to the Mission Santa Clara part of the story. In 1850, the new Bishop of California, the Dominican Joseph Sadoc Alemany, who would later successfully petition the U.S. government for the return of mission lands, recognized the need for religious and educational institutions in the Santa Clara Valley, what with the gold rush bringing in a large population. He appointed John Nobili of the Jesuits to take charge of Mission Santa Clara, and in 1851 he turned the decrepit buildings of the mission into the very first college in the state of California, Santa Clara College, which later became Santa Clara University. In 1861, one of the presidents of Santa Clara College sought to transform what he considered to be the ugly adobe buildings. Workmen attached a wooden facade with 2 bell towers over the old adobe front of the Mission Chapel. In 1885, another president remodeled the church again, leaving the facade intact but widening the interior to increase seating capacity. This is from a county atlas that was published in 1870. It was a grandiose plan for Santa Clara College with a number of ideas of how to create a classically styled campus around the old adobe mission. And here you'll see the mission quadrangle, the adobe church with a facade, and a shingle roof. There's the adobe wall, which is still standing. It's a remnant. There's a quadrangle that's been made into a 2-story building, and then there's a number of buildings that are imaginary. Number 7 wasn't built, number 8 wasn't built, number 6 moved to the place where number 7 is, and plans change. In 1926, when fire burned down the 5th chapel for Mission Santa Clara, it was an opportunity to rebuild using modern materials. And the 6th chapel was rebuilt with an idea of making the church wider, taller, and able to meet the needs of a large faculty and large student body. Okay, we have 17 missions accomplished. We have 7 asistencias documented. We have a couple of estancias, some mission dams. We have 3 presidios done. Now it's on to Mission San Jose, which is not the same as the Pueblo San Jose. I hope you stick with me on my journey.